Today, I'm here to talk about spirit guides and portals so that you can more easily connect. And the easiest way to be able to thin the veil between this world and that of the spirit world is two things. The first is to create a dedicated time and place and space to actually practice or meet with them, almost like an appointment. I do it regularly. And the other is in that space and place to be able to create what I call sacred space in order to be able to thin that veil out. And there's a couple of things that happen in this sacred space to make this process easier for you. The first is that whenever you go there, you're raising your vibration. I can equate it to getting all dressed up to go out clubbing, right? So you have the anticipation, you're preparing yourself and your body, even the way that you look. You make sure that you've got everything you need in your bag or your purse, right? And you head on out to the club, and the experience that you are thinking about having is usually the one you'll get having prepared yourself, right? So this is a similarity to it. The difference is that when you leave the club, it's over. When you create your sacred space and you work it all the time, it maintains the energy of you, the essence of who you are, the energy of your spirit remains in this space even when you are not present. So there's a lot of work that can be done in these portals, right, which are created in sacred space, that can help you even when you're not there working. So let me give you a couple of examples. Behind me is my working altar. It's a place I do my work for my clients. So today I'm going to be working in the Akashic Records and someone's soul record, trying to figure out who their spirit guides are, their inner circle, right, in preparation for this work. And so I have that set up in a very specific way that works for me to be able to call in my spirit guides and my client's spirit guides and get accurate information pretty quickly. So it's got very particular things there that I use and that I know work for me. If you've ever, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, a lot of Italians there, and almost every Italian family, when you walk in the front door, there's some holy water there, and there's usually a table somewhere in the room, maybe even in the bedrooms, that are little personal altars. And there's different objects there. Sometimes they are religious objects, sometimes they're photographs, sometimes they're handwritten prayers, sometimes there's, candles and rosary beads and, whatever is personal to that particular individual. And this is the place where they would go to pray, in the morning or in the evening or in times of trouble. It acts as a portal. So you can create portals like this as an altar space where you can go to do some of your work, where you can bring your troubles, or your worries, and continue to work with them on a regular basis. So, for example, you can have that any place, right? You can have that indoors, outdoors. Some people like to have establish their sacred space and use it as a portal to their spirit guides in their garden, for example, instead of it being in their home, or both. Some people have them all over every room and every place they go, even in their car. I'll never forget the time that I borrowed someone's car in Switzerland, and I was driving around, and I opened up the console, between the front seats, to see if there was a plug in there for, my phone. And there was a big quartz crystal in there, leading the way and keeping the energy good and positive and clear. And I was like, I'm driving around in someone's portal. So it can be almost anywhere, and anything and you can have fun with it. There was one in the car. So it's a place that once you create it, right, the idea here is that you match the frequency of the spirit guides that you're trying to connect with. That's why we do it, in terms of practicality. It makes your life easier to be able to have the guidance from a loving, unconditionally loving spirit guide whose job it is to be able to guide you, nudge you, illuminate pathways for you, help you figure out the best way forward. Okay, so this is why it's great. This is why it's a great practice for you. Okay, so I wanted to show to you something very specific when we're talking about portals and portalways, and that is this. They can be very small and very specific. Can you see this? Maybe it's better if I hold it this way, right? This is it's a reproduction of a medieval, it's called the marriage box, and there's etchings and things around it. But for me, it's a container, right? It's a container that holds a representation of a spirit guide that helps me when I'm worried. And I only use this to do the kind of work that I want to do with the spirit guide when I'm really worried about someone, something, a situation, and I try to live in the present, but I'm human too. So sometimes we have worry. What is worry? Worry is fear that's amplified to worry. If you continue to process that with energy and amplification, right? Fear turns into worry, turns into anxiety, turns into other things like panic attacks, agoraphobia, claustrophobia, other things. Okay, so this is a particular portal that I use only for that one purpose, right? So as I said to you, this altar back here is my working altar. This is where I'm working with my clients today for their spirit guides. And in this is a representation of a spirit guide. I call her, it's a worry doll. Let me see if I can show you her. I have to tell you that this was given to me by my good friend who's now passed, Sonia Biberman, way back when I was in my early 30s, the early 90s. And I remember I was running a nonprofit community gallery in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, where I lived for a long time. And I was really worried about something. I was probably worried about finances for the nonprofit or something. I was really worried, where I'm working until 8 o'clock at night. I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm strategizing. And she came in with this and she said, I see that you're worried and I don't want you to be worried. You're staying here too late. You need to go home and have a personal life and have some good times. She says, I want you to let her worry. And so, I never thought of doing it. I said, oh, well, what is it? And she said, it's a worry doll. But it will have magical powers if you allow it to worry for you. And so when this became a representation of a spirit guide that helps me when I'm in times of worry, very specifically. I only bring her out when I'm really worried and I don't want to have that energy around me. So the way I do it is this is the portal, right? And so I have her just laying here. She's on my dresser. And when I'm worried, I give her the job of worrying for me. And I have to tell you, it works beautifully. And then when I'm done and I don't need to have her worry for me, oops, I place her back in this beautiful container, right? Which I treat with reverence. So the portals that you're working with your spirit guides can be something simple like this little box with a representation. And the representation can be anything. That's a worry doll that was given to me by somebody who loved me. And it could be a crystal. It could be a piece of paper with words on it. It could be, a vase with a flower in it, could serve as the portal way, as well as offerings, for your guides. But, find a way to do it that works for you. And it becomes sacred space. It has a particular purpose. You go to it often, maybe even daily, to be able to get that kind of support that you might need that day. And in the example that I just showed you, that's very specific. When I'm working very specifically with a guide for a very specific purpose. But it can be more general than that. I have several that I use that act as portalways. Now, I want to also talk about portalways that you don't create and that you run across. These I often find in the natural world. For example, I can remember traveling through Sedona, Arizona, which is well known in lots of metaphysical circles for being an energy center, a portal, a power point on the surface of the planet, and just having an access there that was easier. Now, I found the same exact thing on the South Kona coast of Hawaii, where I lived for 20 years. I would hike out to this spot. It was a very unusual beach on top of a cliff. You wonder how this beautiful white sand even got there, since the ocean was way down, crashing into the cliff. And I can remember hiking out there and laying on the ground, and I was thinking about, somebody was calling in the main goddess there, which is Madame Pele, and wanting to work out an issue and get her guidance on something. And I can recall laying there with, on my beach towel and feeling a vibration underneath my body that surrounded my whole body. And so it was in that place that I knew that I was connecting either directly to Madame Pele or to some spirit guides that were resident there in South Kona, which is just loaded with experiences that people have of having these types of encounters. In fact, there's some people have even written books about their experience many years later. So that's a spot that I ran across that when I go back to, I could feel the same thing that I didn't feel elsewhere. Other people feel that in the middle of the woods, where you're surrounded by, trees that have been around for a long time, that have seen a lot, that can actually hold an energy and act as a medicine for you. But I'm talking about directly connecting with your spirit guides. So you can find those in nature. You can create them for yourself in your garden. You can create them for you in your home or your office. And the key is to bring your own spirit there, which has a higher frequency, which vibrates at a higher frequency than your ego and this humans that don't nurture it and don't recognize that they're spirits walking around in a body. There's a different frequency about it. In order to be able to find a space and a place where the veil thins and you can more easily connect and communicate with your spirit guides, right? So that's it in a nutshell.